much that actually matters when you're applying either to graduate school or for an internship or to sort of like work your way up the corporate ladder. But that label, how much it matters trying to decide what to major in. So that's the first thing. Keep it on the back burner. Second question, what has been the biggest challenge that you had, either at Vassar or afterwards in your career, personal life, and then how did you sort of get through it?
Can I, while you're thinking about your answers, let me repeat that for our overseas folks. It was a double barrel question.
Yeah.
The second half was the biggest challenge at Vassar and how you sort of dealt with that moving forward. The first question was more specifically on your Vassar transcript. How much of that matters and is looked at closely? Coming from Vassar, do they look at what you majored in, what you graded, or all the kinds of things that are on your transcript? How do people look at that when they're thinking of hiring you or accepting you for something else? Maybe we'll go to Mary France. Yeah, hold on one second. Okay, Mary France, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Did you hear the
I
question?
can. No, I did not hear the question.
Okay. Then let's get back to you in just a minute. The question was how much of your Vassar transcript did people look at in addition to the fact that you were from Vassar when you went out to job interviews? How important was it what your GPA was, what your major was, minor, not minor, correlate?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think it was very important because, no, it actually had nothing to do with, because I was in France and people didn't know too much. No, it was not that. I mean, to me, Vassar was, I had the experiences to do experimental work at Vassar, which was just great, because that's how I decided to have my career. But I can't say that using the name Vassar was. I was not in that kind of direction.
Either one of the two questions.
I think I would like to answer both, and it might all tie together, sort of, hopefully. So I was a biochem major when I was here, and like I said previously, I really do believe that the name biochemistry as a major has helped me in the past 2 years. When I graduated, and I was initially looking for it's my first real full-time job, and I'm still at that job, thankfully. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I sort of had the perspective that it wouldn't really matter, but in the 2 years that I've been out, I realized that it did matter that I had biochemistry as my major, and then also that I had like EMT training here, and I've worked in the hospitals before. So that was very much the practical experience that I had here has been a big selling point for me, at least in the 2 years that I've been working at the hospital in Boston. And so I think going off of that, the biggest challenge that I had outside of Vassar, I don't know, I can't really recall the biggest challenge that I had when I was here at Vassar, but by far, without a doubt, the biggest challenge that I had was last year, probably around this time when I was applying for my H-1B visa, and that was by far the most difficult experience I've gone through. And it lasted probably about 9 months of petitions to USCIS to get that, and what ultimately allowed me to stay in the United States and work was the biochemistry major. That was the selling point on my visa petition. So,
Sarah Wilcox.
No? This is a tough question.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'm still thinking on that one.
Okay, the other Sarah. Yeah.
Being a religion major, that is hard to sell. When I think people worry, are you going to be religious if I hire you? so I would have to go into interviews and say I was interested in it because it was a great liberal arts background. And then I think people could relax. So I had to, somehow the name got me in to interviews. I interviewed from here for IBM, Chemical Bank, and a retail, of which I can't remember the name. It was something like Macy's. And I was amazed that they wanted me to come back because I was a religion major. So I think you have to sell yourself after your major. But I'd say that the second question, what was the most difficult thing for me after leaving Vassar, would be figuring out exactly what I would love to do. So I didn't just jump in. When I graduated with this religion major, I decided I didn't want to work for IBM or Chemical Bank. I didn't want to live in New York. And so I left, I went back to Connecticut, and it was, I'm not sure I'm qualified to be a receptionist at this point when I looked in the newspaper. And that was a scary moment. And then I started going to informational interviews and testing out the waters on all kinds of fields and honing in on what would make me happy. And then I met one administrator in a hospital. My mother actually set me up with that. And they said, go try to be a unit manager in Boston. And it clicked, it felt like the right thing to do, and off I went. So, you ready?
Can I, yeah, well, it sort of, I don't know if it quite answers the question, but one thing that I've really come away from looking at Vassar and just the experience, and now having had a professional career or whatever, the importance that Vassar places on good writing, which you get from a liberal arts degree, whether you're in sciences or history or humanities, whatever it might be. The writing, really focus on good writing, because it's amazing how little people can write out there. I've been amazed that even colleagues who I find tremendously intelligent can't string an email together. And no matter what you're doing, if you're writing for a grant, whether it's Fulbright or a chemistry fellowship, or if you're applying for a job, whatever it might be, and when you're in your job, you need to be able to communicate in writing. And I think that's a fundamental skill that anyone coming out of Vassar gets, and I think that's an incredible asset that you'll have to just really take that with you.
That's definitely been one advantage that I felt like I had at the hospital, because unlike some of my coworkers, I've actually, like, my boss has asked me to help write grants with him, which a couple of years out of college is sort of, at least in my mind, seems like kind of a big deal. But he has asked me to help him write these grants, and that's I think a direct reflection of the amount of writing that we did here at Vassar. So that's